Hello and welcome back to my channel. On this video, I'm going to talk about all of the books that I hope to read in November of 2025. And as I typically do, I'm going to start with the books that I haven't gotten to from previous months. Then I'm going to give you a list of predetermined books that I've already chosen for November. And then I'm going to pick 5 random books from my Kindle using an alphabet letter challenge where I pick a random alphabet letter live on the video and then pick 5 books that start with that letter. So that will comprise all of the books that I have on my list for November. So let's go ahead and dive in. So there are a few books that I have left over from previous months. One is one that I've been reading diligently every month, which is Daily Creative by Todd Henry. This is a book of essays on creativity, and there's one for every day of the year. So I have gotten through all of the ones through October, and now I will read November and December in the next couple of months. I also have more to read in a book that I've been reading on yoga therapy. So this is a relatively long, almost like textbook style book on yoga therapy. I got through a large portion of it. I would say another like 100 plus pages this past month. I think I can finish it in November because I'm almost to the point of the book where there's a lot of like images and there's less text. So I am hoping to wrap that up in November. I also got through, I would say about half, maybe 40% of Professor Cromer Learns to Read by Janet Cromer. And this is a memoir basically about this woman whose husband, who is a professor, has a heart attack. And because of the lack of oxygen to his brain, he has a traumatic brain injury. And so he is like coming back from that. And as the title suggests, like he loses his ability to read and to do various other tasks. And she is kind of talking about being his caregiver and, you know, walking through the situation that they had together. So I got about 40%, maybe 50% into that and hope to wrap that up in November. And then the last book I have that is left over from previous months is a book called Love by the Book by Jessica George. This is a novel about female friendship. And I got like 1 chapter in and I was not able to get any further. So I just ran out of time. So I'm excited to pick that up. This is a book that is actually a advanced reader's copy. It is coming out in April of 2026. So I feel like I have a little bit of time to read that. Okay, now on to the predetermined list of books that I have for November. The first couple of books are Audible originals. One is called The Twisted Women's Book Club, and it involves Karen Slaughter. And when I saw that, I was like, I definitely want to pick this up because I love this author. I have actually another book by her on my list for this month. And this is actually, I think, a compilation of a bunch of other authors who are like contributing short works of fiction to this like collection, basically. I'm not even quite sure what this is, but it's a full length recording. It's like 10 plus hours. And so I thought I would pick that up in November. I also chose a novella called You Can Thank Me Later, and the cover of it has this, as you will see in the video, a pumpkin pie, and it was very on brand for Thanksgiving being in November here in the States, and so I thought I would go ahead and pick that up as well. I have a couple of nonfiction books on my list up next. One is called Master Your Next Move by Michael Watkins, and I got on a bit of a tear a while back with like career books. And these were some more recent ones that just came out, and I was able to get some audiobook copies of these. So I'm interested. This one is kind of focusing on the concept of the first 90 days. There are several different books that have talked about this concept of the first 90 days, but I think there's always more to learn. So I'm looking forward to picking that up. I also found a book that I just love the title of. It's called The Squiggly Career by Helen Tupper. And this is basically talking about how the concept of like a career ladder that's very linear is maybe outdated, among other things. I think she gives other kinds of career advice. And that outdated career ladder has certainly been true kind of in my experience. I feel like there's a lot more, like people have used the metaphor of like a rock wall, you know, in terms of how you build out your career. And I found that to be more true, you know, in terms of my own path. But I also like these career books because I often work with coaching clients on the concept of career. And so wanted to pick these up and just see what kind of the latest folks are saying. Another nonfiction book I have on my list is Your Future Self by Hal Hershfield. And the subtitle is How to Make Tomorrow Better Today. And I think the premise of this book is basically that when we make decisions, we don't have like a very clear picture or vision of who our future self is that those decisions would benefit or be a drawback to. And so I think he's kind of arguing to kind of have like a really clear picture of your future self so that that person can kind of influence your decisioning. I love this concept. So I'm excited to pick up this book and see what I think. I also started to lightly dive into holiday reading. In addition to that Thanksgiving book I mentioned, I also want to pick up Nick and Dewell's Christmas Playlist. This is the first book in the Mistletoe romance series by Cody Hall, and I think this is probably a pretty traditional holiday rom-com. So I expect to pick up more of those in December, but wanted to start dipping in November. I also added a book to my list that is a Read with Jenna pick. So it's a celebrity book club pick, and it's called The Irish Goodbye by Heather Amy O'Neill. And this is a book that I kind of picked up without knowing much about it. Sometimes I like to just read the book club picks because, you know, they're typically very popular. I've seen a couple people talking about this and saying it was good. But it is about 3 adult sisters who grapple with a shared tragedy over a Thanksgiving weekend spent in their childhood home, navigating complex relationships and old tensions. So that Thanksgiving theme, it kind of got me on this one. So I decided to pick that up and put it on my list as well. I also decided to add a book called If We Survive This by Raquel Marie. And I've never read this author before, but this one was described as The Walking Dead meets Yellow Jackets. And I was like, count me in. Like, I don't necessarily need to know more. But it is basically a horror novel. It is about a teen girl who's leading survivors on a perilous journey during the apocalypse. And I can always use a good apocalyptic dystopian novel. And I don't read a ton that are YA, so thought I would pick that one up. The next book I have on my list is called The Librarians by Sherry Thomas. I think I probably would pick up this book just based on the title alone, but the description got me as well. It says that murder disrupts the peaceful, predictable daily routine of 4 quirky librarians who must protect their life-altering secrets in this first contemporary mystery from this author. I think that sounds fantastic. I was able to get a physical copy of this book from my local library, and I also picked up the audio, so I'm probably going to read those together. One book that I saw being mentioned by multiple people in the month of October is one called Soul Searching by Lila Sage, and I decided to go ahead and pick this one up as well. This is basically a book about a romance, but there's a home where it is haunted, and there is like a man and a woman who are kind of dealing with the haunting of this home. So it says it takes place in Wyoming, and there's a small town upholsterer in need of a fresh start, and a photographer whose life have come to a screeching halt, and the supernatural forces that bring them together. So this is probably more appropriately an October read because it's a little bit spooky, but I thought I would pick that up, and people seem to be really enjoying that one. All right, another nonfiction book that I picked up for the month to add to my list is called The Evolving Self. This is by Michaeli Csikszentmihalyi, and this is a book that I had on my 25 books for 2025 list. And I think it's like the last book, other than Daily Creative, which I already mentioned, that's on the list as well, that I need to read to like wrap up that list. And this author is most well known for his work on flow, the concept of flow. He has a book called Flow. He also has a book on creativity that I've read in the past that I really enjoyed. And so I'm excited to pick this one up and see what I think. I also added 3 books in the same series by the same author to my list. This is the 4th, 5th, and 6th book in the Sparrow Falls series by Catherine Cowles. So the 4th book is called Beautiful Exile. The 5th book is called Chasing Shelter, and the 6th book is called Secret Haven. And these are all kind of like small town romances. They sometimes have like a little bit of mystery suspense, and they are about kind of like interconnected siblings. These are, I believe, the last 3 books in the series, and then it will be done. So I've read the first 3 books, and the one that kind of caught my attention is number 6, because it covers the romance between a character, and it's been kind of like built up throughout the entire series. And so I want to read the other 2 so I can get to that one, basically. But I tend to really enjoy these. I like the mystery suspense romance blend. You know, like I feel like it's really entertaining, and Catherine Cowles' work is really fun. Okay, a few more here. I added a book called The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I picked up a Ruth Ware a while back and actually really, really enjoyed it. I think I've read like 1 or 2 by her at this point. And so I wanted to kind of continue to work my way through her backlist. It says that this is about a girl named April, who's the first person that another girl named Hannah meets at Oxford. Vivacious, bright, occasionally vicious, and the ultimate it girl, she quickly pulls Hannah into her dazzling orbit, and together they develop a group of devoted and inseparable friends during their first term. But by the end of the second term, April is dead, and now a decade later, Hannah and Will are expecting their first child. And the man convicted of killing April, who's a former Oxford porter, has died in prison. They're relieved to have put the past behind them, but then a young journalist comes knocking and presents new evidence that he may have been innocent. So there are so many like aspects of this that are the right vibe for me, like the kind of like past crime or past event coming into the present. It sounds like a little bit of like an academic, book because it takes place in school. Somebody who is innocent, and there's been like wrongly accused of a crime and there's a real perpetrator who has not been found yet. All these things have drawn me into this book. So I'm excited to read that. I also added to my list a book called It's Different This Time by Joss Richard. This is a book that I've seen a ton of different people talking about. It is a second chance romance about former roommates who move back into a New York brownstone together and face the events that led to their estrangement. And then they have these unresolved feelings for each other. And as you can see from the cover, this is a very like fall vibe book. And I've seen a lot of people picking it up, and so wanted to try that out myself. I also added We Are All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter. So this is my second Karen Slaughter book of the month. Karen Slaughter writes very dark psychological mystery thrillers, and she has several series that she's written, and I think I'm caught up on most of those series. I mean, like I read pretty much everything that she publishes, and this is a new series that she has started called North Falls, and I am just really excited to see new work from her that's kind of going in this direction. The original series that she had was basically about a doctor and a sheriff character, or like a police officer character, who are in a relationship. And then that branched off into kind of like a second series. And I don't think this series is connected to these other two. But one of the things I appreciate about Karen Slaughter is she's not afraid to like kill off characters and like take things in directions that you're like really not expecting. And it's just really interesting. So this book, it says, there is a small town where everyone knows everyone, or so they think, until the night of the fireworks, when two teenage girls vanish and the town ignites. And it's like the secrets of these teenage girls and the small town. So I'm excited to dive in. Hopefully that'll be a fun one. I also added to my list Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. I have not really gone wrong with a Lynn Painter book in the past. They're super fun. And this is about childhood sweethearts reunite in a hockey-loving town where romance is about to heat up on the ice. And it says Icebreaker meets Better Than the Movies. Better Than the Movies is a Lynn Painter novel. Icebreaker is a novel by another author. And it says there's playdates on the playground to sneaking into movie theaters. Danny and Alec were inseparable as kids, and then Danny moved away. Years later, she's coming back. This takes place in Minnesota. And she is reconnecting with the nerdy and comforting Alec, but teenage Alec is nothing like the boy that she remembers. He's the hockey star in this town, and they find themselves kind of thrown together and playing the role of boyfriend and girlfriend. So it sounds like a fake dating romance, but then it turns into a real romance. So looking forward to picking that up. And then the last book that I have on my list, predetermined list, is called Imagine a Door by Laura Stanfill. And this is a book that is about writing. It's a nonfiction book, and it's subtitled A Writer's Guide to Unlocking Your Story, Choosing a Publishing Path, and Honoring the Creative Journey. And as somebody who dabbles in fiction writing, I thought this would be kind of fun. I think it's really long. It's like over 500 pages, so I'm not entirely sure what all is included in this book, but I'm looking forward to picking that up and seeing what's there. All right, so next I'm going to pick my random letter for my Kindle, and I'm going to get my Kindle ready here so that I can look at the books in my Kindle based on letter. All right, so the letter I'm picking is the letter R. So let's take a look at the R books that I have on my list and see what I have not read yet. And then I'll pick some 5 books to add to this list. The first book that I'm going to pick is one called The Reading List. And this is by Sarah Adams. And this is a book that I'm gonna pull up the details here. I've heard about for a while. It says it is about how a chance encounter with a list of library books helps forge an unlikely friendship between two very different people in a London suburb. And I'm always going to take a book about libraries. I already have a book about librarians on my list for this month, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to my list. I am also going to pick up a book called Refuse to Choose. Use all of your interests, passions, and hobbies to create the life and career of your dreams. Since I have a couple other career books this month, this one sounds like a good one, and it's been on my radar for a while. I've wanted to pick that one up. I am also going to add to my list one that I've been wanting to read and just haven't gotten to yet. This is the 6th book in the Boys of Tommen series called Releasing 10 by Chloe Walsh. And I have read the previous books in this series. If you've watched past videos, I have raved about these books. They're basically romances that take place in this high school in Ireland, I believe. And I get completely sucked into these. I have this on audio. All of these are quite long. So I'm looking forward to picking this up. The next book I'm going to pick up is one called Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hersey. And this is also a book that I've heard about for a while. I think that I'm somebody who doesn't rest well. I'm typically always on the go. I have a lot going on. And this is talking about like this really central question of what would it be like to live in a well-rested world? So it's kind of a pushback against productivity. And I don't mind exploring that, looking a little bit more into it. All right, the next book I'm going to put on my list is one called Ross Poldark. This is by Winston Graham. This is part of a long-running Poldark saga series that was made into a PBS Masterpiece series as well. And I have not encountered any of these books. This is basically about a man who returns to England from the war. It takes place starting in the late 1700s, and he wants to have be reunited with his beloved. But it says instead he discovers his father has died, his home is overrun by livestock and drunken servants, and Elizabeth, who believed he was dead, is now engaged to his cousin, and so he has to start his life anew. And it says, thus begins the Poldark series, a heartwarming, gripping saga set in the windswept landscape of Cornwall. So this just sounds like fun. It's a little under, I think, 400 pages. So I love a good saga, and it's fun to kind of start something new like this. So, all right, I'm going to add that to my list as well for the month of November. And as you can see, I have some really fantastic books on my list for this next month. I'm really excited to see what I think of all of these books. I hope you'll check back at the end of the month to see my TBR debrief video. And until then, happy reading.